إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن أحسن الكلام كلام الله وخير الهدى هدى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. In the previous lesson we finished by looking at two very important events that took place, and these two events were the Islam of Hamza radiyallahu anhu and the Islam of Umar bin al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu. And this was a turning point in the history of oppression and tyranny and the weakness of the Muslims up until that point. So when these two men, and these two men were strong, powerful men who had a say amongst their people, so when they became Muslim, and they became Muslim within days of each other, when they became Muslim, the Muslims found a great amount of honor, izzah, and strength by the Islam of Umar bin al-Khattab particularly. Why? Because Umar bin al-Khattab was a very stern, very harsh, very strong, very powerful, very brave man. And he brought all of this strength to the Muslimin. Before the Islam of Umar bin al-Khattab, they used to pray secretly. And when Umar became a Muslim, they said to the Messenger of Allah that, are we not upon the truth? The Sahaba said to him, are we not upon the truth? And if we die, or whether we live, are we not upon the truth? And the Messenger said, of course. And they said, then why are we hiding? Why are we hiding? Why are we praying in secret? Why are we meeting in secret at Darul Arqam? Why are we behaving like this? And they said, by the one who sent you with the truth, we shall come out, meaning in front of the Quraysh. And so they came out, and they were in two groups or two lines, one behind Hamza and one behind Umar, meaning they found strength by way of these two men. So they came out openly in front of the people, and they came and they marched to the Haram, al-Masjidul Haram, and the Quraysh, when they saw this boldness that they never saw before from these people who were weak, the poor people from the society, the weak, downtrodden people of the society, whom they could trample over, put their feet over, all of a sudden they marched to the Kaaba. Ahead of them is Hamza, and ahead of them is Umar in the other line. So when the Quraysh, when they saw this, they were very disturbed. Very disturbed. And for that reason, the name of Umar al-Faruq, Faruq meaning the distinguisher between the truth and falsehood. So when he came out as a Muslim, Islam had strength, and Islam was now being proclaimed openly amongst the people. So anyone who was a Muslim, it was clear. And Umar is on this side, Hamza is on this side, and anyone who was a kafir, a mushrik, then he's on the other side. So now, because the Muslims, they brought Islam out in the open, this now became something that separated truth from falsehood. And so therefore Umar is known as Umar al-Faruq. Al-Faruq. Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, he said that we never cease to be honored and powerful and mighty ever since the time Umar became a Muslim, accepted Islam. And we were not able to pray by the Kaaba up until Umar became a Muslim. And another from the Sahaba, Suhaib radiyallahu anhu, he said that when Umar became a Muslim, then Islam, ظهر al-Islam, Islam became open and strong and apparent. And they began to openly call towards Islam. Openly, not like before when they were hidden. And he said that we used to sit around the Kaaba in circles, groups of people in circles. They couldn't do that before. And likewise they said we would also make tawaf around the Bayt, around the house. And if anyone harmed us, we would retaliate. So before they couldn't do this. The people would trample upon them, oppress them, harm them, punish them. And they couldn't do this before. Now the situation completely changed and they were able to retaliate because of the strength that they found through Umar in particular, and also due to Hamza radiallahu anhu. And after this, now the situation here obviously has now completely changed. With two powerful men in the ranks of the Muslims, the Quraysh now had to go back and use some other methods. When they saw the Islam of Hamza and Umar, they gathered together and had a shura. They met together and they had a discussion, and they decided what is the next best way to deal with the issue of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ and the Muslims. So one of them, he's called Utbah bin Rabi'ah. He is from Bani Abd Shams ibn Abd Manaf, and he was a person who was a leader. He was obeyed amongst his people. He had clout, he had power, he was obeyed and listened to. And he came and they gathered together with the Quraysh, and he addressed the Quraysh. He said to the Quraysh, O gathering of the Quraysh, should I not go and speak to Muhammad? Shall I not go and speak to Muhammad? And I should present to him things. Maybe I should try to offer him things. Maybe he will accept them. Maybe he will listen to us and we will give him whatever he wants. And then he will stop his message. He will stop speaking against us. He will stop, his speech against us and our worship and so on and so forth. This is what they meant. So they said to him, of course, O Abu Walid, of course. So go to him and speak to him. So this man, Utbah, he went to the Messenger of Allah ﷺ. He was sitting by the masjid, by the Kaaba alone, and he said to him, O Ibn Akhi, O son of my brother, indeed you are from us, meaning you, Muhammad, you are from us, and you are from the best of us in your lineage. You're from the best of us in terms of ranking and standing, and you've brought to our people something which is great and mighty. What have you done? You've split our jama'ah. You've brought this thing, meaning this message. You brought it to our people. What have you done? You've split our jama'ah. You split the people. And you have declared the people, meaning the Quraysh, them to be foolish. And you have rebuked our gods. You've criticized our gods. And you've criticized their religion. And you've declared those who came before, from the ancestors, you've declared them to be disbelievers upon kufr. And all of this is what you have done. So listen to what I'm going to present to you. Look at them, think about them, and maybe you will accept some of the things which I'm going to present to you. So what did Utbah, what did he say? And what were the things he was going to present in order to stop the Messenger of Allah ﷺ from his message? Listen what he said. He said, O Ibn Akhi, if you wish, if what you want by the message which you have brought, this affair that you have brought, meaning Islam, if what you want is mal, is wealth, so this is the first thing. Number one, mal, wealth. We will gather for you all of our wealth until you will be the most wealthy of us. Or if you wish, if you want nobility, if you want sharaf, and we will give you this up until we will not decide in any issue from the issues except after consulting with you. Meaning that you will have such nobility that every affair that we enter into will come to you first. because you will be the most noble of all of the people. So first was mal, then was sharaf, and then he said, and if you want mulk, if you want power, we shall make you the king over us. And if you wish, then they said, if you wish, if it is women that you want, then choose any woman from the women of Quraysh, and we shall marry you to her, and we shall give you 10. We shall give you 10, in fact. And then they said, and if, now look at the cheek and the audacity of these people. First they offered him wealth, then it was nobility, then it was power, political power, then it was women, and then they said, and if this thing that you are bringing, this, meaning the Quran, if this Quran that you are bringing, if it is something from the jinn, then maybe we will be able to bring some medicine for you. We'll bring a cure for you. We'll request the doctors and the people to come to look into your affair. We will spend from our wealth to bring someone to look at you, to cure you from this disease or from this ailment. Look at this, the cheek and the arrogance as to what they said about the Messenger, that as if he is mad and possessed and needs medication, needs treatment. So they said, so this man Utbah, he presented all of these things, and he said, hoping that the Messenger would choose one of these things. So what was the response of the Messenger of Allah? He said, أَوَقَدْ فَرَغْتَ يَا أَبَا الْوَلِيدِ. He said, have you finished? Have you finished from everything that you've got to offer? He said, na'am. So then he said, فَاسْمَعْ مِنِّي. Then he said, listen to me. So the Prophet ﷺ, the man said, I will do so. So then the Messenger of Allah, he began to recite Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, the revelation. Hamim, Tanzilun min ar-Rahmanir Rahim. He said, this is a revelation from Ar-Rahman, from the most merciful, the one who is merciful to his servants. Kitabun fussilat ayatuh. It is a book whose signs have been clearly detailed and explained. Qur'anan Arabiyyan liqawmin ya'lamun. It is an Arabic Qur'an for a people who know. Bashiran wa nadhira. It comes as a glad tiding and as that which warns. فَأَعْرَضَ أَكْثَرُهُمْ فَهُمْ لَا يَسْمَعُونَ. But most of them turn away and they do not listen. وَقَالُوا قُلُوبُنَا فِي أَكِنَّةٍ مِّمَّا تَدْعُونَا إِلَيْهِ. And they say that our hearts are veiled from that which you are calling us to. وَفِي آذَانِنَا وَقْرٌ. And in our hearing there is an impediment, meaning we can't hear what you're saying. We don't hear what you're saying. وَمِن بَيْنِنَا وَبَيْنِكَ حِجَابٌ. And between us and you there is a barrier, hijab. فَأْمَلْ إِنَّا عَامِلُونَ. So do whatever you want. We too will do whatever we want. So the Messenger, he kept reading from the beginning of this surah up until he got to the 13th ayah. He kept reading. And all this time, Utbah is standing, he's listening, then he puts his hands behind his back to rest. He's listening to this speech. And when the Messenger, when he reached the 13th verse in this surah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, فَإِنْ أَعْرَضُوا فَقُلْ أَنذَرْتُكُمْ صَاعِقَةً مِثْلَ صَاعِقَةِ عَادٍ وَثَمُودٍ. So he said, if they turn away, then warn them of a blast like the blast of Ad and Thamud. As soon as he heard this threat, because he's listening to this Qur'an, the Qur'an has mesmerized him, because he knows this is not poetry. He knows this is not the speech of a man. So he's listening and it's capturing him. And then when he hears the threat made by Allah, conveyed by the messenger of Allah, then he put his hand upon the mouth of the messenger of Allah. He told him to be, he said, enough, enough, enough. Because why? He was fearful that what the messenger said, the threat, that it might happen. Because this is how the Arabs were. They believed in omens. They were fearful. They were superstitious. And they greatly feared these types of things. So he told him to stop. And when the messenger was, when he finished reciting, and he also made the sajda, and he finished, he said, have you heard now? Have you heard Abu Walid? He said, I've heard. He said, well, there's this, there's you, and there's this. So then Utbah, he went back to his people, and when they saw him coming, and they saw his face, they began to say to each other, they said, we swear by Allah, we swear by Allah, this Walid, this Utbah, this Abu Walid, Utbah, he's come back with a face different to the face with which he went. His face is different. So he sat down, and they said to him, what's happened? What's happened, O Abu Walid? So he said, this is what he said. He said, behind me, what I've left behind me, indeed, I have heard a speech. I have never heard anything like it. He says, by Allah, it is not poetry, nor is it magic, nor is it the speech of a soothsayer. The soothsayers. O people of Quraysh, listen to me, obey me, and leave this affair with this man. Just leave him. Leave him with the affair that he is upon, and abandon him. He said, by Allah, from what I've heard from him, I've heard a great news. Meaning he's talking about the threat that was made, that if they turn away, then warn them of the sa'iqah, the blast of Ad and Thamud. He said, I heard a great piece of news from him. If the Arabs kill him, then they will have relieved him of you. But if he dominates over the Arabs and takes power, then he will basically, take control over you. And his dominion will be your dominion. And his power will be your power. Meaning he's saying that either the Arabs will kill him, just leave him, don't engage with him. So if the Arabs kill him, they'll kill him. Got nothing to do with you. And if he's victorious and he gives glory to the Arabs, then you will share in that, in whatever he has. So just leave him to be, leave him to do whatever he's doing, and you people will be happy in either way. So when they saw this, when they heard this man come back with such an attitude, they said, indeed, Muhammad has bewitched you. Meaning he's played magic on you. He's affected you. So the man said, Utbah, he said, well, this is my view. This is my view. So you do whatever you want. Do whatever is apparent to you. So you can see now that the next step, when they realized that Islam was strengthened by Hamza and Umar radiallahu anhuma, they tried a completely different approach, which is the approach of bribery. This is bribery. To make the messenger compromise in his message, to give him the glitter of the world. And obviously the Quran came and sent them on their way. So after this, when the mushrikun failed in this way, and they realized that this type of trying to deceive and beguile the messenger and try to make him aspire, they then thought about maybe we should haggle with him. Maybe we should haggle with him and try to come to a compromise in the religion. So they said to him, we shall present to you something, maybe it will be of benefit to you. Listen to what we've got to say. So he said, what is this? This is when they said, you worship our God for 1 year, and we shall worship your God for 1 year. And they said, if we are upon the truth, then because you worshipped our God, then you will have taken a part of the truth. And if you are upon the truth, if you're the one who's upon the truth, then because we worshipped for a year, then we will have taken a share of the truth. So meaning that only one of us is upon the truth. It's either you or us. So you worship our God for a year and we worship your God for a year. That means that you are upon the truth and we're upon the truth as well. We'll share the truth like this. And so this is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He revealed a number of verses in answer to these people. From those verses was Suratul Kafirun. قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ لَا أَعْبُدُ مَا تَعْبُدُونَ, to the end of the surah. Say, O you who disbelieve, I do not worship that which you worship, nor do you worship that which I worship, to the end of the surah. Likewise He said, قُلْ, Allah commanded, قُلْ أَفَغَيْرَ اللَّهِ تَأْمُرُونِّي أَعْبُدُ أَيُّهَا الْجَاهِلُونَ. He said, say, is it other than Allah that you command me to worship, O you ignorant people? And likewise He revealed also, قُلْ إِنِّي نُحِيتُ أَنْ أَعْبُدَ الَّذِينَ تَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. Indeed, I have been prohibited to worship those whom you call upon besides Allah. So this series of verses that were revealed, they were an answer to this attempted, we call it haggling, like a bargain. It's like, let's have a bargain in this, as if the religion is for sale. Sell your religion to us, this is the price, we'll have to haggle. So, these verses were revealed, and the mushriks were basically very eager, as you can see, because they saw that Hamza and Umar had become Muslim. They wanted to remove the controversy and the opposition. This is what they tried to do in these stages. That Hamza has become a Muslim, Umar has become a Muslim. They have strength now. Instead of trying to fight them, let's try to come to a compromise. So the first compromise was, let's offer Muhammad ﷺ wealth, women, possession, kingship, and all of these things. That didn't work. Then they said, let's compromise. You worship our Lord, we'll worship your Lord for a year. Let's come to an agreement. Didn't work. But what they were trying to do was to use ways and means where the khilaf, there wasn't a khilaf. They wanted to remove the khilaf because they were fearful of the strength that the Muslims had. So the mushriks were still trying to end the khilaf. So then what they tried to do, the next stage is, they began to come to the Prophet ﷺ and they tried to make him change his message and to try to alter his message. And they said, look, we're happy to accept what you're telling us. We will be happy to become Muslims. We will become happy to accept whatever it is you're calling to. But there are some things that you need to change. Some things that you need to alter and replace. So now, what they were trying to do was trying to say to the Messenger of Allah, that we'll accept Islam, we'll become Muslim, we're happy to accept what you're saying or what you're calling to. But there are some things that, maybe you should change. Maybe you should alter them or replace them. Meaning, they wanted the Messenger to bring another Qur'an. To bring a Qur'an different to this Qur'an, which calls to Tawheed, which criticizes their worship, which judges them with disbelief for what they are doing. That's why they said, as Allah quotes about them, ائت بقرآن غير هذا أو بدله. They actually said this, bring a Qur'an other than this one, or change and replace this Qur'an. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He commanded the Messenger to say, قُلْ مَا يَكُونُ لِي أَنْ أُبَدِّلَهُ مِنْ تِلْقَاءِ نَفْسِي. Say, it is not for me that I should change this from my own self. إِنْ أَتَّبِعُ إِلَّا مَا يُوحَى إِلَيْهِ. I follow only that which is revealed to me. إِنِّي أَخَافُ إِنْ عَصَيْتُ رَبِّي عَذَابَ يَوْمٍ عَظِيمٍ. Indeed, I fear if I disobeyed my Lord, the punishment of a mighty day. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he informed those mushrikun by way of this, that this is a it's a great and mighty message. And if the messenger had actually, because the thoughts that were going through the mind of the messenger of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he revealed some verses in the Quran in relation to this, and he said, وَإِن كَادُوا لَيَفْتِنُونَكَ عَنِ الَّذِي أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْكَ. He said that these people are trying to almost put you to trial about that which we have revealed to you, so that you may fabricate a lie against us besides it. لِتَفْتَرِيَ عَلَيْنَا غَيْرَهُ, that you may fabricate, meaning something else, and ascribe it to us. They're trying to put you to trial. وَإِذًا لَاتَّخَذُوكَ خَلِيلًا. And in that case, they would have taken you as a close and intimate friend. So Allah revealed to the messenger exactly what it is that they were trying to do. And then he said, وَلَوْلَا أَن ثَبَّتْنَاكَ لَقَدْ كِدْتَ تَرْكَنُ إِلَيْهِمْ شَيْئًا قَلِيلًا. That if we had not made you firm, then you may have inclined towards them a little bit. And then he said, إِذًا لَأَذَقْنَاكَ ضِعْفَ الْحَيَاةِ وَضِعْفَ الْمَمَاتِ ثُمَّ لَا تَجِدُ لَكَ عَلَيْنَا نَصِيرًا. And in that case, we would have given you a taste of a portion of the world and a portion of death, and then you would not find from us any aider. So all of this was revealed to the messenger and conveyed to the mushrikeen. Now, before we move any further, if you look at these verses, if you look at how these verses were revealed at every stage, you will see the difficulty that the kuffar, the Orientalists are those people from Europe in the 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th centuries. They decided to look at Islam and to study the sciences of Islam, study the Quran, study the Ahadith. They did this because before this, when they did the Crusades and they tried to remove kill the Muslims and remove them and control them or whatever else, this didn't really work. The Muslims were still there. So they decided to study Islam instead of telling lies that they used to do before in the times of the Crusades, that the Arabs do this and the Arabs do this and they cook children and they do this and whatever, and all of this nonsense and lies and fabrications that were invented in that time. They decided this is not the way. So they decided, let us study Islam properly. Let us study it inside out. And that's why you see that these people from the Germans and many centuries back, these people were masters in the Arabic language. Many of the books that you see written in English, many of the great Arabic language works that were written in the 19th century, there's the Wright's Arabic grammar. There's many of these books, they were translated from the German. The Germans were there before the English and other people. They'd mastered the Arabic language and they'd written lexicons and Arabic grammars and all sorts in the Arabic language. So they studied Arabic, they studied the Quran, Tafsir, Hadith, Rijal, everything. And the intent was to undermine and to weaken and to put doubts about the Islamic sciences. The writing of the Quran, the revelation of the Quran, the preservation of the Quran, the Ahadith, the transmission of Hadith, the collection of Ahadith. Everything. And also they began to study history as well, to look at the history and to amplify the differences, make them greater. All of this. Now, one of the things that they looked at is to explain what is this Quran? Where did this Quran come from? And obviously, the only conclusion that they can come with is that it's Muhammad ﷺ who wrote it. He wrote this Quran. Now, to explain how he wrote it, you have to explain the contents of the Quran. And when you look at the verses in the Quran and these incidents that we are discussing in the Quran, when the messenger is, for example, in this case, the messenger is being admonished. In other cases, the messenger is being reprimanded for example, in issues of things being halal or haram, or issues of choosing a course of action that was not the best course of action, like turning away from the blind man, for example, even though in both courses of action there was goodness, but he chose the action that was of lesser benefit for that which was of greater benefit. So these types of verses that came in the Quran, then the Orientalists, they can't explain these verses. So sometimes they say he was mad. Other times they say he was possessed. Other times they say, well, he heard this from the Jews and Christians. And every single one of these arguments are refuted in the Quran itself. Every single one is refuted in the Quran itself. Do they say that he has possession? They say Asatirul Awwalin. They say that these are tales of the ancients. They are dictated to him morning and evening. He's a sahir, he's this, whatever. Every single conclusion they came to, it's already addressed in the Quran. So this is one of the benefits that we take, that when we look at the seerah and we look at the verses in the Quran and we look at the incidents which happened in all of this, it tells us clearly that this is not from the words of a man. He was being inspired to. He was being revealed to. And in fact, even the verses that we looked at the beginning of Surah Fussilat, if you think about the verses very, very carefully as well, that we mentioned earlier, when at the beginning of Surah Fussilat, when Allah says that these people, وَقَالُوا قُلُوبُنَا, they say, فِي أَكِنَّةٍ, that our hearts are like sealed, and our ears don't hear you. And that's exactly what they were saying in private. They were saying, we don't want his message, we're not going to listen to him. These are the very same things that they were saying, and it was being revealed upon Muhammad exactly what they were saying. So they knew that this was revelation, because no one could have known. How can the Quran be revealed, telling them the very things that they are plotting in private? How can? So they knew that this was revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in fact, there are even more evidences that this was the case, as we shall see in a short while, inshallah ta'ala. So at this point then we can see basically bribery, trying to bribe him, trying to come to a compromise, trying to make him compromise with the truth and change the Quran. All of these are ways that they were using to avoid making it appear as if there is a conflict. Now they don't want to conflict. Now they want to agree and be happy and compromise and give him wealth and you change your message. This is the general approach that they try. So the mushriks realized that when the Quran came each time with a firm answer, decisive answer, throwing it back upon them, they realized that this Prophet ﷺ, that he is calling to the deen, he is established upon the da'wah, and he is not a tradesman. He is not a tajir. He is not someone who is going to sell their religion. And so they came to know this, and they came to know that he is not going to, there's no haggling with the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, and there is no compromise for any price whatsoever. So therefore they decided to to find out, is this man really telling the truth then? Because if he cannot be bribed by wealth, kingship, women, or whatever else, if he is not going to haggle and compromise, and what is this man about then? It really confused them. So they thought, maybe this man, maybe there's something that he's upon. Maybe there is something in what he's saying. So then they went to the Yahud, they went to the Jews, and they consulted with the Jews, and they said, this man, tell us about this man. What do you think? How would you think we should approach this man? What is your advice in how to deal with this man? So one of the learned rabbis from the Jews, from the learned people, he said to him, ask him about three things. There are three things which if you ask him, and if he tells you about them, then indeed he is a Nabi Mursal. He is a prophet who's been sent. Otherwise, if not, then he is a fabricator and a liar. So they said, what are these three things? They said, ask him about the youth, the young men who went and were absent for a period of time. And ask him what happened to them. And ask him, because there's a strange story about them, an amazing story about them, they said. Secondly, ask him about the man who went on the earth. He travelled around the earth and he went around the east and the west. What was his story? And thirdly, ask him about the soul, the ruh. Ask him about these three things. So then, the nobles of Quraysh, they came to the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, and it was at this time that a particular surah of the Quran was revealed. And which surah was that? It was Suratul Kahf. Suratul Kahf was revealed, and in this surah there is the story of those young men, the men of the cave. Allah mentions that story. And likewise the story of that man which is Dhul Qarnayn, man who travelled around the earth. And likewise in Suratul Isra, the surah which came before it, the answer to that question about the soul, about the ruh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned that as well. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. They ask you about the soul, say the soul is from the command of my Lord, from the affair of my Lord. And you have not been given of knowledge except a small amount. Now, this ikhtibar, this test, this examination that they put the messenger through, it was sufficient to convince them that Muhammad ﷺ was indeed a messenger of truth, if it was truth that they really desired. Meaning that now it has become clear to them that he is indeed a messenger, but they didn't want guidance. They did not desire guidance. And so therefore the zalimun, the oppressors, they only increased and accept, in their disbelief and their rejection. Now, these people, you can see from them as well, what is it that is stopping these people from accepting Islam? Now that they've verified that the messenger cannot be bribed, he will not compromise, he will not haggle, he will not sell the deen. They've now verified that he is indeed a messenger by way of the test and examination that they put him through. What is it after this point? Because by now you would think these people would accept Islam. What is it that is stopping them? And the answer is that when all of these truths became clear to them, and they were almost prepared and ready to listen to the Prophet ﷺ and to respond to him and accept, they requested one thing from the Messenger of Allah ﷺ. They wanted as if that they should have a special majlis, a special gathering, a special sitting, where no one from the weak and the poor people and the lowly people should be present with them. Why? Because this is too humiliating for them to sit amongst the weak, poor people, and they are sat, the nobles of Quraysh, sitting in the same place, sitting and learning from the Messenger of Allah ﷺ. These are poor people, the masakeen, and they had accepted Islam before they had accepted Islam. So the poor and the weak people have a precedence, have an excellence, that they became Muslim before the nobles of Quraysh. So this arrogance, this pride, caused them to reject the message of the Messenger of Allah. They considered it repugnant that they should sit with those masakeen, those people of Iman, those people of Taqwa. And so the Messenger of Allah, he was desirous of these people accepting the message. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited him from that. And the verse in the Quran was revealed in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, وَلَا تَطْرُدِ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ do not repel those people. Don't send those people away. Those, meaning those poor people, who are calling upon their Lord morning and evening, seeking His face. It is not upon you to account them in anything such that you should repel them, and such that you should be from those who are being oppressive. So this ayah was revealed to say basically in effect that don't repel these poor people from your company, from your gathering, who call upon Allah morning and evening. Leave them. So you can see now that the Quraysh have now gone through every way possible. And so at this stage, they now resorted to, they're convinced now that he's the messenger. They're convinced. No doubt about it at all. And arrogance has prevented them from accepting the message. Now, what they decided to do next is to demand from the Messenger of Allah that he brings the punishment. That punishment that we heard before, the sa'iqah of Ad and Thamud, where he said, I warn you of the blast of Ad and Thamud. They would say things like, well, if you are truthful, let us see this blast. Let us see this punishment that you keep warning us against from your Lord. If you bring it, then we know you are truthful. So they began to say this in a way where they were actually mocking the messenger, mocking the Prophet ﷺ. Just like the people of Nuh ﷺ would walk past his ark that he was building and would mock him. And like the people who came before would say, hasten the punishment of Allah then, if you're really truthful. So they began to take the same approach. And they began to say, this threat of yours is not going to work. Nothing's happened. We are still alive. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He reveals certain verses in response to this. He said, وَيَسْتَعْجِلُونَكَ بِالْعَذَابِ They want you to hasten the punishment. وَلَنْ يُخْلِفَ اللَّهُ وَعْدَهُ But Allah will never, ever fail to fulfill His promise. وَإِنَّ يَوْمًا عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ كَأَلْفِ سَنَةٍ مِمَّا تَعُدُّونَ Look at this. He said, indeed, one day with your Lord is as 1,000 years of your reckoning. Meaning that these people want you to hasten the punishment. But the punishment, 1,000 years to them is only one day with Allah. If Allah wants, He will bring the punishment, He will hasten the punishment the next day. Because a day with Allah is 1,000 years of your reckoning. So He can hasten the punishment. Look at this answer. And likewise He said, reveal the Quran, أَفَأَمِنَ الَّذِينَ مَكَرُوا السَّيِّئَاتِ أَن يَخْسِفَ اللَّهُ بِهِمُ الْأَرْضِ أَوْ يَأْتِيَهُمُ الْعَذَابُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ He said, do those who plot evil feel secure from that Allah should make the earth to swallow them? Or that the punishment should come to them from where they do not perceive? Or that He will take them whilst they are walking upon the earth? They will not be able to escape that. And verses which are similar to this. So basically, the argument of the mushrikeen here then now changed to something else. Now it changed to, bring us the punishment if you are truthful. Show us a miracle. Show us a miracle to show that you are speaking the truth. Now they began to ask for signs, ayat and mu'jizat and miracles. Out of arrogance. This is out of arrogance. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also revealed certain signs that we should look at inshallah ta'ala in a later part of the biography. But these are all the demands that they made. Now look at all of these steps that they've taken now. After the Islam of Hamza, after the Islam of Umar bin al-Khattab radiyallahu anhuma, before that it was harming the Muslims, trampling on them with their feet, abusing them, mocking them, reviling them, torturing them, punishment, trying to kill them. All of this was the way. Islam was hidden, weak. They had to meet secretly, pray secretly. Then Islam became open with Umar al-Faruq radiyallahu anhu. And the Muslims came out bold and openly. Make tawaf around the Kaaba. Read the Quran around the Kaaba. Sit in circles around the Kaaba. retaliate where that was necessary. So then the mushrikun realized that we can't start making this khilaf to be bigger than what it is, because it will not work in our favor. So therefore, they decided to remove the khilaf by trying to bribe the messenger, first of all, and then by trying to make him compromise in the Quran and change the message, and then by way of demanding, testing to see is he really truthful, and then demanding signs, miracles, hasten the punishment, bring the miracles. So they tried all of these ways. So when all of these ways, they became skilled in using all of these ways and means, and none of that really worked. None of that really worked at all. And they decided, in fact, if you look at how they behaved, they went from stage to stage, from one role to another role. One time they were harsh, next time they were soft, then they were soft, then they were harsh. Then they began to argue in order to haggle. Then they went back to, from haggling to argument. Then they went from attack to trying to attack. Then they went to something else, meaning they're changing and chopping each time, using different methods each time. One time they're making threats, other times they're making, trying to entice the messenger. See how they're behaving, moving here, there, everywhere, trying everything possible. And each time the efforts were in vain, and they came back losers without being successful. So basically, there was only one method left. And what was that method? It was the method of the sword. So if you look at all of the history that we went through from the beginning to the end, you can see now that they've tried every single thing. Every single thing that you can think of to make a man leave his message, no longer proclaim his message. And they've realized now that there is only one thing left. It is to assassinate and kill the Prophet ﷺ with the sword. But even then, this put them in a great confusion. Why? Because if they were to kill the Prophet ﷺ, and he is who he is, his lineage is the noblest of lineage. He is protected by Banu al-Muttalib and Banu Hashim. This will lead to war. This will lead to problems. So even then they were confused, and they realized that this is a precarious situation for them. And likewise, Abu Talib. So they decided first of all to go to Abu Talib. And they went to Abu Talib and they decided, and they thought, well, maybe we can convince Abu Talib to deliver to us the Prophet ﷺ so that they can kill him. Convince him somehow to give him to us so that we can kill him. So then the people can say it was Abu Talib. Abu Talib was the one who gave his nephew to the Quraysh and they killed him. And the blame will be upon Abu Talib. And so they came to him and they tried to speak to him, and they didn't say they want to kill him. They just said, look, give him to us, put him in our possession, in our custody, and we'll take care of him, we'll look after him. But he realized that what they are really trying to do is they want to actually kill him. And Abu Talib became aware of this, and when he saw how they were behaving, he realized exactly what they were trying to do. Because before, remember, when Abu Jahl, when he took the rock and he struck the head of the Messenger of Allah, remember these things had happened before. And likewise, Uqba bin Abi Mu'ayt, when he tried to strangle the Messenger, he put his foot upon the Messenger and he tried to strangle him. And likewise, Umar bin al-Khattab, when he was not a Muslim, he went to the house of the Messenger with his sword. All of these attempts Abu Talib was aware of. And he realized these people, what they're trying to do is they want to kill the Messenger of Allah. So when these people went, he gathered together the Banu Hashim, and likewise Banu al-Muttalib, and he called them and he told them that you should be on your guard, be careful, be watchful, because these people are going to try to kill Muhammad. So be watchful. Now, remember, this protection that is being given to the Prophet ﷺ is not to do with the religion. It is to do with tribal partisanship. because this was something that meant a great deal to the Arabs. It was because it was his nephew. It was tribal partisanship that was leading them to this protection of the Prophet ﷺ. Nothing to do with the religion. Purely pride, purely matters of ancestry and tribalism, and this honor that they had. This is what was making them do this. So the Muslims from Banu Hashim and Banu al-Muttalib, and the non-Muslims and the disbelievers from these tribes, they gathered together and they agreed to protect the Prophet ﷺ. So they began to watch, they began to be careful, they began to go around, watch around the Kaaba. Whenever he was around the Kaaba praying and worshipping, and they would hang around there and be watchful. All of them agreed to this except for one, which was Abu Lahab, and he sided with the Quraysh, the tribe of the Quraysh. So now, obviously, as they're trying to eliminate the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, and they're finding it hard to do that because it will be known that they killed him, and likewise the tribes were protecting him, they became even more confused and bewildered. And this really led them to the final stage, the next stage, which is when they realized that the Banu Hashim and Banu al-Muttalib are watchful and guarding the Prophet ﷺ and watching around him. They then met another time in order to study the whole issue once more. And so they decided, they met together and they made shura with each other, and they decided that because Banu Hashim and Banu al-Muttalib are giving protection to the Prophet, they are going to issue a boycott against these tribes. The boycott would be sent everywhere. So all the tribes in different places would actually boycott Banu Hashim and Banu Muttalib. So they would not engage in trade with them. There was no trade. They would not live with them. They would not marry into these tribes, give in marriage into the Banu Hashim and Banu Muttalib. And they would not sit with them, nor mix with them. They would not go to the houses, nor speak to them, and nor accept any treaty with them or any agreement with them at all. And they should not be merciful to them in any form or fashion. Until Muhammad ﷺ is delivered to them so that they can kill him. This was their next step. So then what happened as a result, the Banu Hashim, Banu al-Muttalib, when they implemented this boycott, the boycott was written, they wrote it on paper, and then they put it in the Kaaba for everyone to see that this was the decree of these people. So this led the Messenger ﷺ, his companions, the Banu Hashim, Banu al-Muttalib, they would be they were forced to go to this little valley on the outskirts of Mecca. And they remained there, and the Muslims amongst them, and even the non-Muslims amongst them. And all of the food was cut off, all of the produce was cut off, there was no trade, there was nothing. And so these people began, for 3 years, they were eating the trees of leaves. They were eating the skin of animals. They were, they were in poverty and hardship until you could even hear the women crying and the children crying because of the extreme hunger. And there would be some people from some of their relatives, for example, the nephew of Khadija radiallahu anha, Hakim bin Hizam, he would come and he would smuggle meat. He would, wheat, the wheat grains. He would smuggle them and bring them to the people. And the only time that they could come out was in the sacred months. And in the times when the people would come to do Hajj at the Kaaba. So they would buy wheat from those people and take it and feed themselves. Now in all this time, in the length that this boycott was taking place, the Messenger was still continuing his call. He was making da'wah. The tribes would come for Hajj, and he would speak to them and make da'wah to them and call them to Islam. And so all of this was still taking place despite the boycott that they made. So after 3 years, you can imagine the suffering of the Muslimin. And what happened was that many of the mushrikeen, the non-Muslims, because they had relatives from Banu Hashim and Banu Muttalib, many of whom were non-Muslims. They had uncles and aunties and things like that who were being harmed by this boycott. And because of that, because of this worldly connection that they had to these people, there was a group of them, there were 5 men from the Quraysh who were deeply affected by the fact that their relatives were being harmed and oppressed because of this action of the Quraysh. So they decided on a method to try to break this boycott because it was really affecting them. And so these 5 men, there was a group of them, they gathered together and they met and they decided on a way to, abolish this policy that the Quraysh had. So the 5 of them was Hisham bin Amr bin al-Harith. There was another man, Zuhair bin Abi Umayyah al-Makhzumi. And so he went to that man, then they both together went to al-Mut'im bin Adi. And then they went to another man, Abu al-Bakhtari bin Hisham. And then they went to another one, Zam'a bin al-Aswad. So the 5 men, they gathered together. And everyone mentioned amongst them that, look, I've got a relative, you've got relatives, you've got relatives, we've all got relatives who are being affected by this famine. And we need to do this, we need to do something. We need to abolish this contract or this decree that was written and hung on the Kaaba. So they agreed. So the next morning, when the Quraysh were gathering together around the Haram, the location, Zuhair, who was one of them, he came and he began to make tawaf while the Quraysh are there. And then when he finished the tawaf, he turned to the Quraysh and he said, "O people of Makkah." So now he's calling out, "O people of Makkah, we eat, we wear clothes, and look at Banu Hashim, look at Banu al-Muttalib. They are perishing and they are not engaging in trade, nor is anybody trading with them." He said, by Allah, I am not going to sit up until this sahifa, this thing that is the decree that has been written, up until it is abolished and cut up, and so this oppressive boycotting is ended. Right? So he made this speech in front of all of the Quraysh. So Abu Jahl was sat there listening. He said, "Kadhabt, you've lied. By Allah, it will not be torn. By Allah." So then Zam'a, who is one of the 5 men who met the night before, he came, he said, "By Allah, you are more greater in lying. You are lying. You are the greater liar. We were not happy with this decree in the first place. We weren't happy with this boycott in the first place." And then when he said it, the 3rd one came, Abu al-Bakhtari. He joined in and he said, "Indeed, these 2 have spoken the truth. I agree with these 2, they've spoken the truth. The one who says otherwise, he's lied. We free ourselves from this decree and from what was written. And indeed, Hisham bin Amr has also agreed with this." So now it appears that these 4 or 5 men are all in agreement that there's something wrong with this decree, we should remove it. So, and then al-Mut'im bin Adi, he came and he said they've spoken the truth. Now Abu Jahl, look at Abu Jahl. Look at how clever this man was. Abu Jahl said, he said, "Hada amrun qudiya bilaylin." He said to them that this issue here was decided the night before. He said, وَتُشُوِّرَ فِيهِ بِغَيْرِ هَذَا الْمَكَانِ. And this issue was consulted in other than this place. You're a clever, shrewd man. Meaning, he said that you people, you've discussed this last night. It was decided last night you're going to do this. And the consultation on this was done other than this place right now here. So he said, so he sat there listening and he said that this is Abu Jahl. And Abu Talib was sitting in another part in the masjid. And he came and he said to them, "The Prophet has informed me that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent some ants or some insects upon this thing that was written and put in the Kaaba. And it has all been destroyed apart from the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." So they wouldn't. So why? Because it is oppressive, and because it includes cutting the ties and oppression and so on and so forth. And Allah destroyed it all except for the part which has His name. So they began to speak about this amongst themselves, and they said, "Let's go and have a look at this." That either he's lying or he's truthful. So they went. So if he's being truthful, then we were wrong, and if he's lying, then we were correct. So then they went, and they went to the Sahifa, to the decree that was written, and they found that everything had been eaten away except for the word Bismika Allahumma, in your name, O Allah. So only the name of Allah remained. And so when this became a sign from the signs given by the Prophet ﷺ, the mushrikun had seen this with their own eyes, but they continued in their misguidance even after this. Anyway, the outcome of all of this was that the boycott was ended and finished, and the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, they came out of the valley and they came back into Mecca after these 3 very difficult, hard years for the Muslims. Look at this. Now, after this, the Quraysh tried one more time. They realized that Abu Talib was becoming an old man, and they went back to the usual methods they were trying before. And we'll finish on this note, inshallah ta'ala. And so, when the boycott wasn't successful, they realized that Abu Talib is not going to live for very long. There's only going to be a few months left. And they also realized that if Abu Talib dies, and then we assassinate the Prophet ﷺ, then all of the tribes of the Arabs will speak about us, and they will say, look at these evil people. Look at their vileness and lowliness. They waited until Abu Talib died, then they killed his nephew. Right? So they understood this, that this will happen, and our position and honor will be affected. So they decided we have to try one last time to try to make Abu Talib agree to give the Prophet to us and in our custody so that we can kill him. So that the people will say it was Abu Talib, he gave his son to the Quraysh. And he agreed to it. So they came, and he was a man who was in his 80s by this time, and they realized that this illness that he's entered into, that he's not going to survive this illness. So then they sat with each other again, decided on a course of action, and so they went to him, and they feared that the old man was going to die, and they agreed, and they went to him and said, look, give us your nephew. Tell your nephew to stop speaking about us, to stop, speaking about us. And Abu Talib then invited the Prophet ﷺ, and he said to him, this is what they are saying. They are saying to you, they want me to give you to them. So the Messenger of Allah, he said, "Oh uncle, I just want to say one word. I only want them to say one word. And if they say this one word, all of the Arabs will follow them. And all of the non-Arabs will give them the jizya. If they say this one word, all they're going to say is one word. That's all I'm asking for them. And all of this will be theirs." So they thought, when they heard the Prophet say just one word, they became surprised, and they thought, well, what is this one word? Tell us, we'll say it. One word, and we'll give you 10 words on top of that as well, if this is how it is. So what was this one word? He said, they thought that there was going to be compromise. So he said, this one word that I want you to say is, La ilaha illallah. And when they heard this, they got up, they shook their thobes like this, and they said, has he made all of the gods a single God? Have you made all of our gods into a single God? Is this what you've done? And this is when they walked off, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He revealed about them, أَجَعَلَ الْآلِهَةَ إِلَهًا وَاحِدًا, that they said, as he made all of the gods into a single God. Inna hadha la shay'un ujab. Indeed, this is a strange and amazing, mighty affair. So this finishes our lesson today, and it brings us to the end of all of the methods and tricks and plots and plans and everything that the Quraysh tried, and they failed completely and miserably. Now remember, at this point, Abu Talib was the man who had been protecting the Prophet ﷺ and the Muslims up until this stage. And so he's come right at the end of his life, and so obviously there are things to happen in what follows, and we shall take up those issues inshallah ta'ala in the next lesson. With that, we'll conclude there today. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.